The first time I saw her, I was arranging a pyramid of green apples in the produce section, and my life felt like a room with all the windows locked. It was a Tuesday. The supermarket's fluorescent lights hummed a flat, monotonous tune against the squeak of shopping cart wheels and the distant beep of a scanner. I was a creature of routine, my movements as practiced and unthinking as my breathing. Pick the apple, check for blemishes, place it just so. My wedding band, a narrow band of white gold, felt heavy on my finger. A laugh cut through the sterile air, a sound so bright and unself-conscious it made me flinch. I looked up. She was 2 aisles over, in the cereal section, reaching for a box on the top shelf. The movement stretched her t-shirt taut across her back, revealing the strong, clean lines of her body. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, all sun-streaked brown hair piled into a messy bun and effortless grace. She got the box, turned and said something to her friend, her face animated, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Her name, I would learn later, was Sam, short for Samantha. I looked away, a hot flush creeping up my neck. What was wrong with me? I was 42, a married woman, a mother. I had a husband, David, who was a good man, a reliable man, who left his shoes by the door and kissed my cheek every morning before he left for the office. We had a daughter, Chloe, 14, who was currently texting me a flurry of urgent messages about the specific brand of yogurt she needed for a smoothie recipe she'd seen online. My life was full. It was a completed jigsaw puzzle, every piece snugly in place. So why did the sight of this stranger feel like a missing piece I hadn't known existed? I finished with the apples and moved to the tomatoes, my hands moving on autopilot while my mind raced. I could feel her presence like a shift in the atmospheric pressure. My cart, with its carefully curated list, whole wheat pasta, low-fat Greek yogurt, lean ground turkey, suddenly seemed like a cage on wheels, a rolling testament to a life lived by someone else's recipe. Our carts almost collated at the end of the aisle. It was my fault. I was distracted, looking at her, and I misjudged the turn. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I said, my voice coming out too high, too tight. She smiled, a quick, easy thing. "No harm, no foul. These things are basically bumper cars anyway." Her eyes, I saw, were the color of warm honey. They held mine for a beat too long, and something flickered in their depths. Curiosity, perhaps. A simple, human recognition. Yes, I managed, feeling utterly foolish. She gestured to my cart. "You're very organized." I looked down. My items were grouped by type. Produce, dairy, pantry. Hers was a chaotic jumble of kale, a single sweet potato, a tub of oatmeal, and a box of expensive-looking dog treats. It was the cart of a free spirit, someone who shopped for one, who answered to no one. "Force of habit," I murmured. "I'm Sam," she said, and my heart did a ridiculous little stutter. "Elena," I replied. "Lena. Name." It felt strange on my tongue, as if I hadn't used it in years. David called me Hon. Chloe called me Mom. At the various committees I sat on, I was Mrs. Albright. "Well, Elena," she said, her voice like warm honey to match her eyes. "Try to have a good one." And with another smile, she pushed her chaotic cart past me, leaving me standing there, surrounded by the bright, false cheer of the supermarket, feeling as though the ground had just tilted on its axis. I drove home in a daze, the image of her smile superimposed over the familiar route. The sprawling, tastefully landscaped houses of our neighborhood, each one a mirror of the next with their manicured lawns and 3-car garages, usually felt like an accomplishment. Today they felt like a beautifully maintained prison. I pulled into the driveway of our colonial, its white siding gleaming in the afternoon sun. It was perfect. It was a tomb. David was home early, which was unusual. He was in the kitchen, pouring himself a scotch. "Tough day at the office," he said by way of greeting, his back to me. He didn't ask about mine. Chloe thundered down the stairs. "Did you get the Chobani flip? The vanilla one with the almonds. Not the one with the cookies, Mom, that one has too much sugar." "I got it, honey," I said, unpacking the groceries, my hands moving by rote. I felt like an actor in a play I'd been performing for 15 years. "The Good Wife." The attentive mother. The scene was so familiar, so suffocating. I looked at David, at the slight paunch over his belt, the distinguished gray at his temples, the way he scrolled through his phone while he drank. He was a good man. He provided. He was faithful. He was also a stranger. Our conversations were about logistics, schedules, and household repairs. When was the last time he had looked at me, really looked at me the way that girl, Sam, had in the grocery store? That night, lying in our king-sized bed with the expensive Egyptian cotton sheets, the chasm between us felt vast enough to swallow planets. David's breathing was already deep and even, on the verge of sleep. The space between our bodies was a no-man's land, cold and empty. "David," I whispered into the darkness. He grunted, already half gone. "Do you ever feel stuck?" There was a long pause. I thought maybe he'd fallen asleep. Then, stuck? With what? The mortgage. We're ahead of schedule. The car's paid off. He shifted, turning his back to me. "Go to sleep, Elena. You're overthinking again." Tears pricked my eyes, hot and sharp. That was it. That was the sum total of my existential crisis to him. Overthinking. I was a problem to be solved, a machine that needed recalibrating. I closed my eyes and saw not my husband's familiar profile, but a pair of honey-colored eyes and a smile that promised a different kind of life, one that was messy and unpredictable and real. The ghost of a possibility, a path not taken, had just walked into my life wielding a box of organic kale, and I knew, with a terrifying, thrilling certainty, that nothing would ever be the same again.
A week later, the universe, or perhaps just the curated algorithm of our town's limited social scene, intervened. I was co-chairing the annual library fundraiser, a job that involved a lot of spreadsheets and placating wealthy, bored donors. Our usual graphic designer had moved to Portland, and in a panic, the head librarian, Beatrice, had found a replacement. "She's young, but her portfolio is fantastic. Very fresh," Beatrice gushed on the phone. "Her name is Samantha Miller. She's coming by the house this afternoon to look at the space and discuss the vision." My heart stopped. Samantha. Couldn't be. It was a common name. But when the doorbell rang at 3 o'clock, and I opened the door to find her standing there, a leather portfolio under her arm and that same easy smile on her face, the floor seemed to drop away beneath me. "Elena," she said, her eyebrows lifting in surprise. "You're Mrs. Albright." "Please call me Elena," I managed, my voice thin. "Come in." She stepped into the foyer, her gaze taking in the high ceilings, the tasteful art, the perfect sterile order of it all. I saw my home through her eyes then. A museum, a showroom. Black soul. It lacked her. "This is quite a place," she said, her tone neutral. "It's too big for us, really," I heard myself say. A confession I hadn't even known was buried inside me. We sat at the dining room table, the polished mahogany surface between us like a moat. She spread out her designs, her fingers long and capable, a silver ring on her thumb. I tried to focus on the mock-ups for the invitation and the program, on the fonts and the color palettes, but all I could see was the faint dusting of freckles across the bridge of her nose, the way a strand of hair escaped her bun and curled against her neck. "I was thinking something clean, but with a hand-drawn element," she was saying. "To make it feel less corporate, more community-focused. Maybe a line drawing of the library's old oak tree." "That sounds perfect," I breathed, and I wasn't just talking about the design. Our meeting lasted an hour. It was a masterclass in tension. Every time she leaned forward to point something out, I caught the scent of her. Soap and sunshine and something uniquely her. Our fingers brushed once when we both reached for the same sheet of paper, and a jolt, pure and electric, shot up my arm. I pulled my hand back as if burned. Her eyes flicked up to mine, and for a moment the professional mask slipped. I saw the same flicker of awareness I'd felt in the grocery store. It was real. I wasn't imagining it. As she was packing up, Chloe burst into the house, dropping her backpack with a thud. "Mom, I need $20 for the yearbook, and can Sarah sleep over on Friday?" Clem smiled. "You must be Chloe. Your mom mentioned you." Chloe, ever the blunt teenager, looked her up and down. Are you the new designer? You're way cooler than the last guy. Sam laughed, that same bright sound that had first pierced my soul. I'll take that as a high compliment. She looked back at me. I'll email you the revised mock-ups by tomorrow, Elena. After she left, the house felt emptier than ever. Her presence had been a burst of color in a black and white film. Chloe was already back on her phone, but she glanced up at me. You're all red, Mom. Are you getting a fever? I touched my cheek. It was burning. No, honey. It's just warm in here. That night I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs and poured a glass of wine, my hand trembling. I opened my laptop and, with a sense of profound transgression, I typed her name into the search bar. Samantha Miller Graphic Design. Her website was simple, elegant. Her portfolio was brilliant. And there, on the About page, was a picture of her. She was sitting on a rock by the ocean, smiling at the camera, her hair wind-tossed, her whole being radiating a freedom that made my chest ache. There was no mention of a partner. Just her, and a scruffy-looking terrier named Gus. I was falling. There was no other word for it. It was a slow, terrifying, exhilarating descent into a part of myself I had bricked up and forgotten. I was a married woman, contemplating the ruin of my carefully constructed life. And the most terrifying part was that a voice, small but clear, whispered that it might be worth it. The next email wasn't just about the mock-ups. It ended with a casual, dangerous line. By the way, there's a great exhibition of Art Deco posters at the City Gallery that's closing this weekend. It's a huge inspiration for this kind of vintage aesthetic. If you're free, maybe we could check it out together. 2 minds better than one, and all that. Was a line. A simple, professional-sounding invitation. And I was standing on the edge, looking down. I read the email a dozen times. I thought of David, of Chloe, of my life. Then I thought of Sam's laugh, her capable hands, the way she made me feel seen. I clicked, reply. My fingers hovered over the keys. This was the decision, the action that would propel the story forward, and there was no going back. I typed a single, treasonous word, yes. Saying yes was like opening a floodgate. The gallery was just the beginning. We told ourselves it was research. We needed to get a feel for the aesthetic. We walked through the high, white rooms, surrounded by bold lines and stylized figures, and it was the most alive I had felt in years. We talked about art, about color theory, about our favorite books. She was sharp and funny and unapologetically herself. She asked me questions David never had. What's the thing you're most proud of that has nothing to do with your family? If you could wake up anywhere tomorrow, where would it be? She made me remember I was a person, separate from the roles of wife and mother. The professional pretext quickly evaporated. Our meetings became coffees, which became walks in the park with her dog, Gus. I learned she was 28. She'd traveled across the country after college, waitressing, painting, living out of a converted van for a year. Her life was a tapestry of experiences, while mine was a single, meticulously woven panel. I was simultaneously enthralled and ashamed. I was lying to David with every text message, every quick meeting with the designer. The guilt was a cold stone in my stomach, but the warmth I felt in her presence was a fire I couldn't bear to extinguish. The turning point, the moment the slow burn became a wildfire, came on a rainy Thursday. We were at her studio, a sunlit, chaotic space above a bakery. Sketches were pinned to the walls, and cups holding paintbrushes sat next to half-finished mugs of coffee. It was the antithesis of my pristine home, and I loved it. We were finalizing the program design, standing side by side, looking at her large monitor. The rain tapped a gentle rhythm against the window panes. I think that's it, she said, leaning back. What do you think, Elena? I looked at the screen, at the beautiful design we had created together, and then I looked at her. The air in the room grew thick, charged. The hum of her computer, the patter of the rain, the sound of our breathing. It was all a symphony of anticipation. I think it's perfect, I whispered. She turned to face me fully. The playful glint was gone from her eyes, replaced by a raw, open intensity that stole my breath. Elena, she said, my name a prayer on her lips. I need to know if I'm imagining this. This thing between us. I couldn't speak. I could only look at her, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My silence was my answer. She reached out, her hand hovering near my cheek, giving me every opportunity to pull away. I didn't. When her fingers finally made contact, tracing the line of my jaw, it was like the first drop of rain after a long drought. A shuddering sigh escaped me, and I closed my eyes, leaning into her touch. You're not imagining it, I breathed. And then she kissed me. It wasn't a gentle, questioning kiss. It was a claiming. It was the answer to a question I had been asking my entire life without knowing the words. Her lips were soft and insistent, and I kissed her back with a desperation that shocked me. My hands came up, tangling in her hair, pulling her closer. The world, with its responsibilities and its rules, fell away. There was only the taste of her, the feel of her body against mine, the soft sound she made in the back of her throat. It was a revelation. This was what it was supposed to feel like. This was desire, not as a quiet, wifely duty, but as a consuming, glorious fire. We broke apart, both of us breathing heavily. Her forehead rested against mine. Her honey-colored eyes dark with passion. Stay, she whispered, her voice rough. Please. It was the final threshold. I looked into her eyes and saw my future, messy and complicated and terrifyingly real. I thought of David, of Chloe, of the perfect empty house that waited for me. Then I looked at Sam, at the life and the truth she offered. Yes, I said. I took her hand, and she led me from the bright main room of the studio into her small, adjoining bedroom. It was simple, just a bed with a rumpled quilt and a window streaked with rain. The air smelled of her, of turpentine and linen and jasmine. We stood beside the bed, and the reality of the moment crashed down on me. My hands trembled. I've never, I began, the confession sticking in my throat. With a woman. Sam's expression softened. She took my face in her hands, her touch infinitely gentle. Elena, she said, her voice steadying me. It's just us. There's no script. There's just you and me, and what we feel. Her words were a key, unlocking a cage inside me. She undressed me slowly, reverently, her hands mapping my body as if it were a sacred text. Every touch was a discovery, every kiss a revelation. When I was bare before her, I didn't feel exposed or ashamed. Felt seen. Truly seen for the first time. I learned her body with a hunger I didn't know I possessed, my hands and lips exploring the smooth plane of her stomach, the soft weight of her breasts, the strong curve of her hips. It was nothing like I had ever known. It was a conversation, a dance. It was giving and receiving in equal measure. There was no performance, only a deep, resonant harmony. When her mouth found the most intimate part of me, I cried out, my fingers clutching at the sheets. It wasn't just pleasure. It was a homecoming. The waves of sensation built and broke over me, washing away years of numbness, of quiet desperation. I shattered in her arms, and as I came back to myself, sobbing with the sheer, overwhelming rightness of it, she held me, whispering my name like a promise. Later we lay tangled together in the dim light, the rain still falling outside. My head was on her chest, listening to the steady, strong beat of her heart. Her fingers traced lazy patterns on my bare back. I was replete, languid, and utterly, profoundly changed. The world outside this room still existed, with all its complications and consequences. David would be wondering where I was. Chloe would need dinner. But in this moment none of that could touch me. I had crossed the line, and on the other side I had found not ruin but myself. I closed my eyes, breathing her in, and for the first time in a very long time I was not afraid. I was, against all odds, finally home.